Am I audible at the back? It's okay. Just let me know when I need a mic. Thanks, Mac. Okay, so yeah, as Mayank mentioned that this is born out of our experience with RWD in a couple of the projects that we have worked. So today what we plan to do is share what we have learned while working on these projects and start with the basic concepts of RWD and give a hands-on demo on that. So let me just first introduce myself. I am Tejasudha. I have been working with ExpertTalks since 3 years, past 3 years, mainly on web applications and then a couple of projects where we implemented RWD, that is responsive web design. So it was quite new for us and we started off without knowing anything about RWD. But it was a business requirement that it made us think that yes, we needed an approach which actually suits the requirement. So that is where we looked around and then we found that yes, there are certain techniques or let's say if you all are aware of responsive web design, then you know the techniques, you must be knowing the techniques around it, right? So we'll be just focusing on those aspects and also about where you find that you need some different approach altogether, okay, in addition to RWD. So this is all based on our experiences and me along with my colleague here, Akshada, will be just introducing you to the new concept. So I'll just pass it on to her.
Hi guys, I'm Akshada and I've been working with Equal Experts since last 2 years. I joined E as a fresher, like passing out of college. This is my first company I'm working on, and I've also been working on a couple of projects. We made it responsive, and today we are here to share our experience and our approach which we used. Am I audible? Thank you.
So I would go with first thing that what is RWD? Instead of what is RWD, I would like to know what problem is it going to solve. Okay. So first thing we'll be seeing is basically setting up the stage, like what exactly is the problem with the current sites, okay, and what are we solving with responsive web design. Okay, so we'll just start with the introduction about the problem, then what RWD as a solution, then the techniques that we use for achieving that, followed by a demo and a kind of workshop, a small workshop around the techniques. Then the hybrid approach, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes, or rather as per our experience, we feel that we need some other technique also in addition to RWD. So we'll just have a talk about that. Then the considerations, or once you decide that you are going to use responsive web design, then what are the things that you would like to keep in mind, like what are the things that problems you might face, and what are the approaches that we have taken for solving these problems. And the frameworks, we'll be just noting these frameworks here. We won't be explaining any frameworks, of course. So I hope this covers most of the things that people have come with an expectation of, right? Just let me know if it is not enough. And we can have another session. Okay, so let's start with the setting up of the stage. So I'll just give a background of what kind of problem we are facing or why do we need RWD. Okay. So if a few years back, let's take an example of your Google Mail site. Okay, a few years back you were quite happy with it, accessing it on your desktops, right? And the reason you just had desktops and laptops mainly, with a very limited exposure to smartphones or iPads, which are quite available, like quite easily available now, right? So it was good enough at that time, and your Google site served the purpose. But then came in the age of smartphones, iPads, right? So everybody nowadays has smartphones, fine. And then you also have a very good network coverage. So everywhere you go, your network follows you, fine. So and then you always wanted to remain connected. You always wanted to be connected. You wanted to, and how
to do that is access your sites on your phones. This is the device that you carry everywhere. Again, with the flexible working hours and your work schedules, you would prefer that or rather you expected that your work sites are also available on like you wish, okay, I should be able to access my site instead of going and logging into your laptops and carrying your laptops, right? Why not have these things available on your phones, which anyways are with you? So, but for example, the Google site, if it was just a desktop version, like few years back, and you were trying to access it on your phone, I don't think so you would have used it that frequently, right? So let's take an example of Google site here. Like if you access it on your phone, the desktop version, how easy is it for your usage? You might have it rendered on your phone, but just zooming it again and again, right? To just click on a single mail, it's not that user friendly. So what exactly was the plan? Like what exactly did these people come up with? Was they wanted, the need was to have elastic kind of elastic sites, which actually fit or responded or adapted themselves on the device that you're using. For example, if it's an iPad, as long as you are the user is at ease while using these sites, okay, the provider is also happy, and you take full advantage of your device as well as your network as well as your location, I would say. So there was a need, or rather there is a need to have these sites, or rather make these sites elastic so that they fit into the devices. Now here the devices previously would have been quite limited in limited numbers, but now you have tremendous amount of the number is every day just increasing and increasing with not only platform wise but also screen resolution wise. So there is a need that you fit in the size, or rather fit in your site on every of these devices, right? You never expect anybody to have a limited number of devices or anything. Anybody can use any device. But at the same time, just not fit this site on your device, but also make it usable. So this is what we thought is a problem, or rather this is a problem currently that is there, right? So what do you do for this? How do you create your site, or how do you make your site elastic? Would you go for multiple sites? Like let's say for example you build a site for Android phone, you build a site for iPhone. This was until recently, right? So it is not just about creating the platform specific site, but also you will have to fit in this for multiple versions. And the versions are going to say screen resolutions. So you will have to handle those things also now. So had it been just two platforms, it was okay. But you also have to fit in the site on multiple versions or multiple screen resolutions. So that would mean if I go with this approach, have multiple versions, I would have to maintain multiple code bases, which is not even cost effective at all, right? At the same time, let's take an example of any content related site, right? Okay, Facebook or anyone. So nowadays, site doesn't just serve purpose, it is not just your mailbox or anything, but they also publish content. So it's like marketing site or anything. They always want the latest content to be there on the user's view, right? Sorry. So if your site, of your client site is pushing the content every now and then, or let's say even daily, okay? If you have multiple sites, you have to manage that content on all these multiple versions, okay? So let's say there is a content or there is a new product being launched, and you have multiple versions of the site. So you have to take care that this product is being rendered correctly on every version of your site. I don't think even that may not be practical it is not impossible, but not practically possible also. Then again you have to learn the Android specific details, the iPhone specific details, if you have to have platform specific apps. And that also will increase your time to market. Then you have, if you have different versions, let's say you have www.xyz.com, and for mobile you have m.xyz.com. how does the search engines, okay, for example, understand that both these URLs serve the same content, right? You have to have extra bit of coding, like you will have to take an example of Google search engines. If you have to maintain multiple URLs and you have to make sure that they appear correctly in your search results, you have to have some extra bit of coding on top of your site so that Google understands that both these URLs, okay, are serving the same content. Again, for the content reliability, here I meant that, let's take an example that you are viewing a site on your mobile, you liked something and you share it across to your friend, but the friend accesses on your desktop. So that URL which your friend received is a mobile URL, right? And it is open on a desktop. So if your site is not responsive, you will end up seeing the minimal content, right? And the minimal content will be quite annoying. Neither it will be very useful for the user to actually access the content. So mobile, if you just take you can just go and look at any of the mobile sites, okay, and just open it in a desktop. You'll find just one column on your whole screen is blank, and you just see a column of your site. So that again, you will have to have extra bit of coding to ensure that you have redirects in your code, so that if by detecting that you are accessing this link on desktop, even the mobile version should be redirected to the desktop version. So why put all these things, right? If I can just think a bit different. Why not have just one single site, okay? Just one single approach that fits on all devices, okay? Instead of me having to handle, as a developer, me having to handle all these sites, manage all these code bases so that they fit in all devices, why doesn't my approach itself or design fit itself or respond by itself to the environment that it is being loaded on, okay? So we can do this, but how? Of course, we'll have to use something very generic, which is already available. So instead of depending on the phone capability, or instead of depending on the platform capability, I'll see what I have at hand. We have latest technology in hand, which is HTML5, CSS3. Okay, we have media queries. The browsers are supporting that, and we have very good bandwidth now, network bandwidth. We have accessible 3G, 4G, right? So these are the things, let's say, we are going to help us. So how? Okay? So we have the latest technology, and then using this, what we will be doing is, can you move it? So the solution that we found was appropriate for our problem is the responsive web design. Okay. So this is just not very old thing. It is a term coined by Ethan Marcotte in May 2010. Around it is just based on his blog written for one of the web magazines, where he coined the term and has described certain techniques, or rather has explained how a site can be made responsive. And from then onwards, I think it has become very common practice to have building your sites and making them responsive. So it is just not just one technique or something, like just responsive web design doesn't mean that yes, it is kind of a technique, right? Or an idea, but it is a set of such techniques or already pre-existing techniques, okay, combination of them and a different approach of thinking or attacking the problem or your ideas together is what it makes responsive web design, okay? So this is just a way, you're changing your way of thinking to while building or designing your site, and using these techniques which Ethan has already mentioned, okay? And go ahead and build a site which actually responds to the environment. So it is basically suggesting a few things or guidelines. It is a set of guidelines which you can use, okay, so that your site responds to the user's behavior, like what kind of user behavior is expected on the site when he is accessing the site on a particular device. Okay, so this is just an introduction that the problem that we faced was we cannot depend or we cannot rely on multiple solutions, right? With the ever increasing number of users, mobile users, and the number of screen resolutions, the variations in the screen resolutions growing day by day, You cannot rely on multiple code bases or multiple versions, right? So responsive web design is something that we think fits our needs, okay? So we'll just take a look exactly what techniques Ethan has mentioned and how we go ahead and actually convert a static fixed site into a responsive site, okay? So this will just begin with a demo or workshop. So if anybody is interested and has a laptop, they can actually go ahead. We'll be sharing a link and the static site details. So side by side, as Akshara is doing it, you all can also go ahead and do it so that the basic principles of RWD are understood as well as implemented.